Johnny, get your gun, get your gun, get your gun. Take it on the run, on the run, on the run. Hear them calling you.
Welcome back to Frontline Rejects. Before we get started today, we'd appreciate it if you could help us out by hitting that like and subscribe button and by dropping a comment in the comment section below. And if you'd like to reach out to us directly, send us an email at frontlinerejects@gmail.com.
Well, we're out here today in beautiful eastern Washington. Had a little bit of luck turkey hunting. While we're getting this bird gutted out, we're hoping that y'all will be enjoying today's bullet, which is going to be the 145 grain Hornady ELDX through our 270 Winchester short magnum. We'll of course be testing from 1 to 500 yards. This is the fourth time we've featured the ELDX on the channel. We'll be testing it once more as part of our 5 cartridge review on it, and we hope that you guys are almost as excited about today's test as we are about this bird. So let's get started.
Alright, so getting into our impact images here, this is of course our fourth test with the Hornady ELDX. Previously we've ran them through our 300 Win Mag, 6.5 Creed, and 6mm ARC. We've so far found the ELDX to be an accurate, consistent projectile which reliably expands at both high and low velocities. Noting of course that in the wider diameters such as 30 caliber, it does seem to have a trend to fragment and separate more as compared to narrower diameters such as 24 caliber where we see solid jacket core retention. Looking at our recovered projectiles here, we see that at all ranges fired, the ELDX's jacket did retain the core even when impacting at speeds above 3,000 feet per second. So getting into the 100, the core was pressed back and flattened about halfway down the shank. At the 200, it's a similar scene, excellent pancaking with the jacket tearing back on all sides. 300 is again roughly the same with very consistent performance from the ELDX. 400 is a little goofy, the lead flattened sideways, and although it did not tear or pull free from the cup, my guess is that something in our target medium caused it to begin to tumble. We round things out at 500 yards with the core looking like it wants to separate from the jacket, but just barely holding on. We also see expansion ending significantly higher up the shank than the previous ranges. Taking a look at our graphs, we've got expansion in excess of 2 times original size at all ranges fired, which is in line with prior performance from this this bullet. Average expansion is 2¼ times original size, which I'm perfectly happy with, and expansion standard deviation is low. Numbers are a bit more drastic when we look at the weight retention at 100 yards. When the bullet was still traveling an estimated 3,016 feet per second, we retained 80 grains, or about 55.2%. This increases at each range fired as the bullet slows down until we reach 500 yards, where the bullet is estimated to be moving a little over 2,300 feet per second, about 700 feet per second slower than the 100, at which point we retain about 118 grains, or 81.7% of the projectile's original weight, and I think this is a pretty clear demonstration of how non-bonded bullets act. When at high velocity, they shed a lot of weight on impact, and at low velocity, they can retain much more. This is in contrast to a bonded core bullet, which has the core fused to the jacket, causing it to retain much more weight whether at low or high velocities, or monolithics, which generally tend to lose very little weight at all. The important factor here is that while shedding drastically different amounts of weight across all ranges fired, we maintained fairly consistent expansion figures ranging from 2 to slightly above 2.3 times original size. And weight retention here is pretty consistent with what we've seen in previous tests with this bullet. This is our 4th test with the ELDX, and so far average expansion has ranged from mid-50s to the high 60% range. So what is the use case for this bullet? Well, with a relatively high BC of 0.536 and a muzzle velocity of almost 3,200 feet per second, we're still moving above 2,300 feet per second at 500 yards. And according to our drop charts, we'd be moving about 1,797 feet per second at 900 yards. When we tested this bullet in our 6mm arc, we started with a much more modest muzzle velocity, and at 500 we were achieving 1,785 feet per second while still maintaining expansion in excess of 1.5 times original size. So with this current loading in our 270 WSM, we'd be moving faster at 900 than the arc at 500, which means we'd be above what I would consider to be our effective minimum expansion threshold. So I think that an appropriately skilled long-range hunter could run this bullet out to 900 or so yards as long as they had a muzzle velocity of at least 3,190. And I want to be clear, my personal limit on taking shots is usually 500, although if I've got no wind and a very good shooting position, I will take shots to 6 with an appropriate cartridge and bullet combo. Now at 900 yards, this bullet in this loading would still be carrying north of 1,000 energy foot-pounds, and we've been told for years that the minimum amount of energy for killing elk is roughly 1,500 foot-pounds and deer is 1,000 foot-pounds. So we would drop below the recommended energy threshold for elk at 600 yards and deer past 900 yards. I am aware that there are scores of hunters who have taken elk at ranges further than 900 or with less than 1,500 foot-pounds of energy, and the right shooter could probably take an elk at $1,000 with this bullet, because realistically what matters the most is proper shot placement. But with the sake of caution, for our use case with this bullet, on deer we'll say a max of 900 yards, and for elk a max of 600 yards. As ever, I'm impressed with the consistency of the ELDX across all the cartridges we've tested it in, considering it's a non-bonded, aggressively priced round. And for shooters looking to build their own load in this chambering with this bullet, our load today was based off a maximum recommended charge of MagPro from Nosler's online load data, with the bullet set to max COAL. This was our 4th test with Hornady's ELDX. We'll be testing it once more as part of our 5 cartridge review on it, and if you want to make sure you don't miss that video, consider subscribing and making sure notifications are on. If you got something out of today's content, consider hitting the like button. We appreciate everyone who helps us out in the algorithm by liking or commenting. Just keep in mind, even if we don't always respond to your comments in a timely manner, we do read them and we greatly appreciate them. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.